Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Cheer the Duck Up podcast. I'm your host, Tom Stockdale, here with my co-host, David Page. How are you, my friend?
I'm not too bad, thank you, Tom. How you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. I've been doing a lot of thinking and reflecting recently on the feeling of embarrassment and why we have it. So I started a thought about emotions. Like there's some, like say, a jealousy. Why? Why do we have stuff like a jealousy, right? Now, at a biological level, I know you could argue because you have to spread your seed and other people might be and this, that and the other. But in modern life, it doesn't really feel like it has a place. And to me, like embarrassment and jealousy all comes back to the ego in the same thing. And then I was thinking about times when I've been like truly embarrassed. Just like slightly embarrassed, like when you're dancing for an out your comfort zone video where it's just...
We've just been reviewing a bit of footage, yeah, very embarrassing indeed.
Yeah, right. Well, like I didn't like that feels very embarrassing, but
that is the point of that video, though. Of course,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah, of course, it's
deliberately embarrassing yourself for a YouTube video.
Yeah, but at least from that embarrassment, there's some productivity. So
it's an exploration. We're trying to discover. We're trying to learn about embarrassment. Trying to learn what function it does serve. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and it does. So sometimes you get embarrassed, you get out your comfort zone, and you gain from it. And other times, there's not really a gain to be had. So I'm going to tell you an embarrassing story about myself.
I'm looking forward to this.
Say it. If I ever told you about the time I shat in my neighbour's garden?
Oh my days! I would have remembered that one, bro.
I think so. So right.
Have you told your neighbour before you tell me?
Yeah, so this happened when I was younger, right? I was maybe about 13, 14. Now, I used to have a key. I went to secondary school and I've got younger siblings, so my mum would have to pick up them, so I'd have my own key. And then I used to invite my friends in and we'd all sit in my bedroom and smoke and scran all the food and stuff. So then we just weren't very well behaved, or we'd start to drink as soon as we got in from school, 13, 14. So she took my key off me. And then I got home one day, mate. And
your mum did?
Yeah.
Right.
And I got home one day and I was like proper needing a shit to the part where like I should have had a shit in school, but for some reason you can't have a shit in school or you get bullied.
Well, you're a schoolboy, still trying to work it all out.
Yeah. Oh, you're shitting in school. Like,
no one likes to shit in school though.
Yeah.
Well, no, they have the scratchy greaseproof paper toilet roll, don't they?
Yeah, of course. That disgusting shit. So yeah, I was like halfway home, had a bellyache, went to unlock the door. Fuck, she's not home from picking up my siblings yet. So I'm ringing the bell. I'm even knocking, like, it was like flat. It was in a place in Plymouth called Alexander Road. And I was knocking on my neighbour's window and he was like this, like, paranoid, schizophrenic guy. But, like, I needed a shit that bad. Like,
my God.
But obviously he didn't answer because I was knocking on his window. I was like, right, she has to be soon. I had a phone. I didn't have credit. And obviously I didn't have a contract or anything because I was like 13, 14. There wasn't a front garden. There was a place to put your bins and that sort of stuff. But my neighbour to the right had a tree in his garden. So I figured I can duck behind his tree and have a shit, right? So, like this is desperation talking. I'm turtle heading at this point, mate. I can't wait any longer.
The sweat's trickling from the brow. Decisions are being made in haste.
Yeah,
it's not prime moment of your decision making capabilities.
Yeah, for sure. Not my proudest moment. And with that kind of pressure on you, like there does come to a point where your body's like, fuck this social construct, bro. You're an animal. Shit on the floor. Do it. Like just get this out of you now because it hurts, right? So it's like, okay.
Seems pretty linear decision making, at that base level, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course. Right?
Well, we're going to need to.
Yeah, like the more desperate that you get, the less society's values matter, right? No, that could be taken horrendously out of context. In some circumstances, fuck, I just keep digging. But yeah, so I was crouched down behind this wheelie bin and behind this tree. I whipped my trousers down and my whole mind was focused on this, right? So I was squat down.
I mean, I'm assuming at this point, so you've never done this before previously?
No, of course
not.
So
what, I mean, like, what are we just supposed to know how to do things like this? Like, where do you put your trousers? How far do you pull them down? Like, do you need a handle to hold on to? Or what are we doing here? There's panic.
And what was my option?
I feel so sorry for you.
I could literally shit myself. Or what was my option? Right, like I tried knocking.
It's going to end in tears
on my neighbours. Yeah, and I'm not just going to stand there and shit myself. So I'm in this guy's fucking garden, and I'm squatting down, holding on to his wheelie bin, and like I don't know when you hold it in and it like runs out you like the horses out the gate, right? Just poof, right? Yeah, right. So at the first lot, like, so I was sat there like, right, and then I look up and there's this guy hanging out his window smoking a joint, right? But he hasn't seen me yet.
Oh my God.
Right, so I'm squatting, literally shitting in his garden. I'm looking at him. He's smoking a joint and just taking in the scenery, looking at some birds, and he kind of looks down, does a double take and sees me, right? He's like, what are you doing, right? And I panicked and I got up. I didn't even snip. I got up and fucking pulled my trousers up.
Poor young schoolboy Tom.
Poor young schoolboy me, right? I pulled my trousers up, ran up this street, and there was one of those, you know, like the green connection boxes, like where all the internet.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're sort of green metal boxes that are sticking out of the pavement here and there.
So there was one of those. So I ran up and I hid behind that, and I was peeking down, and he came out to the front of his garden and he was looking up at me. I was like,
he actually left his. So he's like, well, I'm not having that. Absolutely no way. Like a dog, one thing. Yeah. Like a human taking it. Yeah. Oh.
Very luckily.
He could have minded his own business, couldn't he?
Mate, I was shitting in his garden. He was minding my business in his garden. Right? So yeah, I fucking ran up and I hid behind this. This isn't even the worst part of the story, right? I hid behind this thing, and then I figured I can just walk back down like nothing happened.
Okay.
Right? And just pretend nothing's happened. So I walked back down. And I went to wait in my garden, and he was stood by his door, and he was looking at me. He was like, "Are you going to pick that up, mate?" I was like, "I'll pick what up?"
Pick it up?
Yeah. But he's like, "That shit that you just did in my garden." Right. So I was like, well, it's not my shit, but I mean, like, I'll pick it up. Right. Like, as if any human being in the world is going to do that.
To a teenage schoolboy, you're like, that was the most smart way to answer him.
Yeah.
Like,
right. So then I picked up like a pasty wrapper and went to pick it up. He said, don't do that, mate. I'll get you a carrier bag. I was like, all right.
Oh yeah, don't lower yourself.
Yeah. Let's not embarrass you anymore. So he went and got me a carrier bag, and he was like, "Why'd you shit in my garden, lad? I don't have a key. My mum won't give me a key." I explained the situation to him. He said, "Why didn't you just knock on my door?" I was like, "Because I don't know you."
Because it's preferable to shit in an open space where I can see things than in your goddamn toilet.
Yeah.
With you outside waiting, smoking a joint
at some random guy's house, like, and then I didn't admit it to him at all. Even though, like, I made clear eye contact with him, like he knew it was me. Like, right, I will get caught short. Don't do it again, right? Like, just please, if you ever get caught short like that again, knock on a door, right? You can go in and lock the door. I'll wait outside, right? Like so he was offering to wait outside the flat while I locked the door and use it, just so there was no danger of any kind of dodginess. And he said, and don't worry, like, I'm not going to tell your mum. So I was like, yeah, nice one. And that's like kind of when I admitted it to him. That was the only time that I actually acknowledged that I actually did it. I was just lying the whole time. It, like, literally, it felt like I wanted the world to swallow me and just fucking end me, but it just didn't happen, right? Like, it just went on. And then when I got in, I remember very vividly, I was wearing yellow boxers, right? And I didn't even snip. I just pulled up, right? So they were a state. So I was like, right, I need to get rid of these because I can't explain to my mum. Like, a skid marks is one thing, but this is a car crash, right? This is this is something completely different. So we were in the top floor flat. So then I was in the bathroom and I took them off. I got a washer. I was like, what am I going to do with them? And then I threw them out my bathroom window, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because then they're gone forever and I'll never have to consider them again.
Yeah.
You were thinking.
Apart from about 5 seconds later, when I heard what the fuck is that? What had happened was I chucked it out, mate, and my shitty boxes landed shit first on the bottom flat neighbour's dog.
Oh.
Right. So then I've had to, because the bathroom window was like that frosted glass, you know. Like, I've had to go through to the kitchen, hang out. I'm really sorry, right? And she was obviously on heroin, right?
Oh, thank God for that. I was going to say, yeah, good. Like, she probably had worse skid marks going herself. Like,
yeah.
That's the only way that this could possibly be made any better. Like,
do you know when people have used heroin and, like, I don't know whether she was necessarily on it at the time, but then their voice kind of changes and they end up sounding like this, where it's all kind of dissipated and
yeah,
like,
they're just in some sort of stream of like misery that doesn't make sense to people who aren't in it.
So not in a good place at all. So then
scary.
I went down and I knocked on her door. I was like, I'm really sorry. Please don't tell my mum, right? Because I don't want to get beaten up for this. And she was like, oh, what were you doing? It's a long story. Can you just not tell my mum? And she said, yeah, if you walk my dog, right? So I was like, fair, right? So
if you want to win over a heroin addict, if they've got a dog,
then just
this is the way.
Just offer to walk their dog after you shit on it. But when she brought it to me, she had obviously taken the boxes off, but it still had my shit on its head.
Oh, no.
Right? So then it was a lovely dog. It was like a Staffy or something, like that. You know, the kind of lockjaw looking ones. Like
I used to like Staffies until this story.
yeah. So yeah, I was thinking about that, and like, I don't think, even when I've been caught out with more adult problems, right, having to just lie to somebody's face when they know as well, like I made eye contact with a guy and I'm here trying to tell him Nah.
You're allowed to make mistakes when you're a kid, and that's one of the ones, isn't it? Like finding positivity in life and staying focused and cheerful to deal with the slings and arrows of life and stuff. I think the biggest lesson you can teach yourself is to take responsibility for your actions, right? Like that's like probably as fundamental and like as a bigger part of the core of my understanding of life, like as it could be. Like taking responsibility for your actions is the key to everything, right? You almost can't take many steps forward until you master that, right? Like you'll never be the best person you can be until you know how to do that, right? Unfortunately though, when you're a 13 and 14 year old little fuck like me and you were when we were 13, 14, you know, you're perfectly at liberty to be in the process of learning these things. There's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with your story. Like it's a crazy and hilarious story.
Yeah.
Like, but you're allowed to do that when you're 13 and 14 because but the point of it, you know, you're in the process of learning. So that was a hell of a learning experience for you, and it's like, and I'm not surprised. It's like how many different parts of that story you could have just ended the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if you just took responsibility for the fact you haven't got a key, you need to take a shit, and you're just a human being is in need. This whole thing could have been avoided, but like, yeah, it's like how many messes you'll make along the way.
Exactly, trying to cover up the fact that like he made eye contact with me.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So there you go.
If I just told him the absolute truth from the start, like, look, like even if I didn't move, right? It's like, look, I'm really sorry. I'll pick it up after. I really need a shit. I'm in excruciating pain with it. I've been holding it since like 1 p.m. in school because I can't shit at school because you get bullied if you do. I'm really sorry. This was an awful situation. If I just come straight out of the back, because he was sound too. He was a really nice guy and he was super reasonable about it. If I just taken accountability straight off the bat, which in most cases, just taking accountability straight off the bat and just going like, fucked up, hands up.
Even if you take responsibility for your actions, especially when you fucked up, and the guy isn't sound about it and he's a dick, that's still better, right? Than trying to live with the lie of like, you know, it's better to pass it on, take the blame and the guilt and the sort of take all of that away from yourself and just let it go. Say, I did wrong. We're all humans. We all do wrong. Okay.
Yeah. Prime
ministers, kings and queens, they do wrong. They do stupid shit that they're not happy about, like blowing up innocent people in countries for profit. But moving on, things like that. The best of the best do it. We're all human beings. I think it's funny you should bring that up because I think that the best lesson that I could have taught myself at that age would have been that to take responsibility for your actions. I had a horrible instance like that when I was at school. This is like just a horrible, cringeworthy, embarrassing, miserable story. It doesn't involve shitting, but it's horrible. Where it's just a little simple thing, but like there was a girl in our class, she had one of those cool ass pens, right? So it's a massive pen with loads of different coloured tabs around the top of it. Yeah, cool. So you press the pink one, the pink pen comes out and boom. And I was on a bench with two other kids and we decided as a group to take a pair of scissors and just snip the end off of them all, you know, just ruin this poor girl's pen for no reason, you know. Yeah. I mean, this is like the first year of school, 12, 13 years old, you know. Yeah,
you don't know why you're even being a cunt at that age, do you?
No, it's just trying to keep my head above water, you know. I hated school so much, you know. And when the teacher found out about, when the girl found out about she went mental, told the teacher, and the teacher was like, you know, the last thing you wanted to hear when you're 12 and 13 years like, well, this is so serious, I better call the year head. And I'm like, no. And I just getting tense and I'm fighting this. No way, I'm not dealing with this because like that was the stupidest thing. I knew it was a stupid thing to do. I can't take, you know, I can't take the shit that I deserve for this. Like for some reason, you know, like no, I can't take it. I'm going to have to find a way to avoid it. Basically, cut a long story short, the year head called the three of us into her office and we sat there. The other two admitted it and I just couldn't. Like it was like my jaw was wide shut or something. I was just like, no. And I burst into tears, you know, went bright red, you know, I was hyperventilating. It was awful, mate. It was so terrible. And I felt so sorry for the poor girl, Parminder. God love her. I can see her now, to be honest. I feel so sorry for what I did to her. You know, she did nothing wrong.
And I felt exotic name, that?
Yeah. She wasn't that exotic a girl. She was a lovely girl who did nothing wrong to anybody at all for the entire time that we were at school together, which included primary school, and there's just no need for it.
And they're the ones that get it, though, innit?
Oh, well, unfortunately. I learned about what we're talking about in that point. I just realised, like, you know, I was like, I'd made that so much worse. Just take the detention. Say sorry. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I fucked up.
You fucked up and stuff. But it is really, really hard to learn that lesson, especially when there's so the vast majority, I'd say like 90% of people, if not more, mate, like of the people around us aren't asked about this lesson too.
Yeah.
So like you've got a lot of people around you who don't put much value on the idea of taking responsibility for their actions, and there's many people who would just lie to your face again and again. No, the sky's green, you know, it doesn't matter what you say. And then you see it in the media, and the institutions and the people that we respect and look up to will do it as well, which is another issue as well. So it clearly is part of our human being, right? Just being a human, that we want to somehow protect ourselves from recriminations and stuff.
We don't want to look silly.
We don't, and you don't want to look silly. But the question I always have for myself is like, what are you holding on to, right? If you know what I mean? Like if you do something wrong and you won't admit it, what is it that you're holding on to? Does it have as much value as admitting you've done something wrong, apologizing to somebody, trying to make it right? You know, if you are lucky enough to stop in a moment and weigh those two things up, then you'll find an answer. Because it's like, here you've got admitting you were wrong, saying you're sorry, trying to make it better, and moving on with your life and learning a lesson, versus like what is in the other side of these scales? Like, what is it you're after? Like getting away with it, like getting away with not saying it. Like thank Christ I didn't have to do any of that. What's wrong with saying sorry? What's wrong with admitting when you're wrong?
Yeah, like
bearing in mind, like I say, that it is that we all do it unanimously, every human being on the planet.
Yeah, but we pretend we don't, which is strange, right? And
yeah, what's that about?
Like I couldn't admit that I was wrong for the longest time, right? About anything. Like there was a point in my life, like when I broke up with the mother of my kids, and I started to see a different girl, and where I did like a lot of overcorrections, and just that was the period I kind of figured myself out and started being able to admit when I was wrong. And the way that started was I was telling a couple of white lies, and then they escalated, and then it got bigger and bigger. And then I was waiting.
That wouldn't have happened if you just admitted it in the first place.
Yeah.
Instead of entering this complex web.
Yeah, and
carry on.
And trying to keep up with it and trying to juggle it and all of this, and it's
ruining your brain. You could have just let it go.
So then it happened about 2-3 times, and it might have been because it happened in such like short succession to each other that it actually made it kind of sink into me. But it happened like about 2-3 times where I knew that the walls were caving in as such, and I just had to wait for it, like I had to brace for impact. And then I realized that how this ends, right, like, was when it finally does get to the end, it ends with me admitting that I'm wrong, being vulnerable and saying, yeah, I fucked it. I've got I'm in a corner now. I've got nowhere else to run or squirm or to jangle to. So I have to just admit, I fucked it. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that and blah, blah, blah. But then I kind of thought, if that's the end result anyway, why am I dragging myself over the coals when I'm gonna end up in the pan anyway? Why not just jump straight into the pan and say, look, I fucked it, and my bad, I shouldn't have done.
It's almost impossible to overstate how beneficial it is to learn the lesson that we're talking about, isn't it? Like it's helped me so much in my life. And if you are one to try and avoid taking responsibility for your actions, you might have to create a false idea of what actually occurred in order to cover your tracks. It's called a lie, obviously. But you know, if you are one to lie, that's extra work for you to do, right? You've got to remember that lie. Yeah, you might get brought up on that lie, right? The thing is, lies don't tend to just stop there, right? If that's it's like a sliding doors moment. It's like a Y-shaped junction. It's like, okay, you've gone off in this direction, you're going to have to follow that direction now with the people who are involved in the situation you're dealing with. If they want to talk to you about what's happened there or something like that, or you might have to there might be a recall to that another time, and then you've got to maintain that. And the energy it takes to be a liar and to be somebody who's trying to master the situation around them so that they're in control of it by manipulating reality and truth, for me personally, like that would kill me. Like I haven't got that space like free. I'm a dad of 3 kids. I've got a business to run, you know.
How could you possibly have the mental energy to keep up with this fucking bullshit, especially when like the majority of the time none of this shit matters? Right?
Well, that's the thing. Sorry to cut you off, but you're right. I find that people who do that, some people are bad at it, right? But there are people who are very good at it. And if they are good at it, then you're right, they start chucking it in here and there where it's unnecessary, and there you go. You know, you're creating this whole web of deceit, which is a great, you know, term, because it does sort of explain what it is. It's a web, you know, with
complicated and intricate and tangly and
exactly, and you got to you're continuously weaving it and adding to it. Like some people are good at it, so they just lie about stuff that's not worth lying about.
Yeah, mate. I found that Lois, right. I'm obviously not going to name anybody, but there was this guy. I don't really spend a lot of time with him now. I used to spend a lot of time with him though, and he would just tell like random lies. Like he would say, he'd come to mine on like, we used to have, it's hard because I don't want to out this guy, but me and some friends used to have like a kind of a weekly games night where we'd get together and play board games and stuff, which is fucking sick and more people should do. Board games are fucking awesome. That it's a whole different way to interact with your friends.
No screens.
Like, it's great. It's fun. You need to actually think and use your imagination. It's fantastic. But he would come around. Say we do it on a Sunday, right? I'm not the best in the world, but I can cook. I can make tasty food, right? So then I'd say, like, lads, like, I'm going to put some food in. And then he would randomly tell me, oh, I've had 2 roast dinners today. Like, so yeah, I had to have one with my mum, and then I went to my girlfriend's and I'd been plated one up there. So I had 2. Like, oh, well, I don't want you to put you some food out anyway, or like I can put it on a plate and put it in the fridge, and you can get it later if you're hungry, because like they're staying around the night and stuff. He's like, oh no mate, no, I'm absolutely full. It's like, okay, yeah, no worries. And then half an hour later, like, you see him getting a bit kind of white and flushed while we're all eating and stuff. And then we went out for a smoke, and we could see through the window when he didn't think we were looking. He was like taking little bits of each plate and stuff, right? And but like, you know, when someone's hungry eating, it's just all about getting it into your stomach as quick as possible. So then it was uncomfortable, but I confronted him on it. Like, I said, mate, I can put you some food out. And he went red and he was all embarrassed. But why would you tell that lie?
It sounds crazy, but I do have kind of a frame of reference. I know people who are like it. I know, again, I wouldn't want to out anybody particularly. But yeah, I know people who lie as a sort of matter of course, right? So they're so used to blagging people that if you say, like, do you want to do something on Sunday night, rather than just go, don't fancy Sunday, like, I've got a long day at work, I'll be knackered or something. It's just like, oh no, I've got my cousin coming around and stuff like that, right? Yeah, so they lie about the small things. If this is somebody who's a friend and somebody who's in your life, and you've got to share part of your existence with these people, and you're thinking, well, I know you're lying about small things, so then the next time something big comes up, I mean, you can't trust them.
It does cast some doubt.
Yeah, well, it depends who you're talking to. The people I'm thinking of, I know that they lie, as a matter of course, over literally everything. So it's like when you are confronted with somebody like that in your life, you can't really hold them close to you. You can't rely on them. That's like the most important factor of a relationship, whether it's a friend, colleague, or a girlfriend or a wife, is trust. Surely, right? Yeah. Because if you haven't got that, then you've got nothing, have you? So it's like, it's a shame, like, when you have people like that around you, and you're just looking at them, you have to realise, well, you're not the one for when the shit hits the fan, and when we're in the trenches. Yeah. You know, it's almost like you're visiting their little planet, their little web of deceit. They've created their own little planet to live on, you know?
But I do think with people like that, it does get to a point where a reality and their reality merges, and they don't even know what they're lying about anymore. Kind of comes to this point where, if lie detectors weren't bullshit and they actually worked, like it's mad that anyone thinks you can plug into a fucking machine and it can tell you whether you're being honest or not. That's the dumbest fucking thing in the world. Like, it's for reality TV shows and looking good. If it worked, then we wouldn't have a court system. We'd just plug it in. Did you kill a cunt? Yeah, no, okay, off you go in the cage. Obviously nonsense. But if something like that worked, they would get to a point where they would smash it and they would pass it because they believe it to be true, right? And I know that I'm by no means a perfect human being, and I know that I've done similar things to this when I was figuring myself out as a teenager, and I used to do exactly that. So I'd be offered food and I would say no. One of the biggest ones were if I was staying at someone's house and said, mate, if you're hungry, help yourself to anything, the cupboards are yours, right? Like, you've said it to me too when I've been around yours, and I know you mean it, right? But when I was younger, if I ate anything from other cupboards, I would get shit, right? Because they have packed lunches and blah, blah, blah. So then I've got this kind of anxiety there. Like, even if you've told me it's okay and I'm just getting a biscuit and you walk in, I feel like I'm doing something wrong, right? And I get this like burst of anxiety, like you've caught me going through your wallet, or I'm going through your files or something like this. Like, so I get this like horrible feeling. So I understand that. So I don't do it in front of people, but I'll say, like, help yourself to literally anything, or I can make you something now. Like, I'm making myself a sandwich anyway, just have one in it, or I can make you one and put it in the fridge and you can get it later. So that even if I'm not hungry, I will make that extra sandwich there just so they will take it and eat. So I understand that there's a myriad of reasons why people are behaving the way that they behave. But then there's sometimes, at first glance, it's confusing. Let me help you. Like, in this pride and this ego thing kind of gets in the way.
Do you feel like you would like them to learn the lesson you've learned? That's how I feel, because some of the people I'm talking about, like, they're still in my life. I feel I'd just love to hold them down and say, it doesn't have to be this way. You know, if you unpack all this and look at it for what it really is and just be really completely honest with yourself, you could save yourself so much energy. I mean, you've clearly got a handle on it now, and previously, you know, when we were growing up, we didn't. Like, well, I guess we're both in the same boat there. Is there a time in your life you can point to where you specifically learnt these lessons and spent the time necessary thinking about them to fix them? You said it was when you split with...
Yeah, so I learned a lot in that time, and I learned a lot of it by overcorrecting, because we've been talking about lying and honesty and stuff. As I said at the start, I told a couple white lies, and then got to the point where it all kind of collapsed in, and that anxiety waiting for it and that worry made me sick. So I decided from then on I was going to be 100% honest. And I was, which was a fucking massive mistake, right? And not because I was telling the truth and getting myself in trouble, it was because I was being 100% honest. So I would spend some time with one girl, and when I'm there with a couple glasses of wine in me and a bunch of blood in my penis, I genuinely felt like I love this girl. So I'm saying, no, I love you, I love spending time with you, and blah, blah, blah. And I was being honest, and at the time, it was absolutely true. And then I would go home, or posting up, fucking clarity would hit in, and I was like, shit, I don't feel that way, but I've already said, right? So then, from being totally honest, that's ended up getting me into a lie. I was like, what the fuck? And then I would do the same.
We started to get into like, what is honesty? Because if you meant it at the time, then it was being honest, right?
Exactly, right?
But how'd you say that? I love you at the moment.
Yeah. I love you right now. I don't know how I'll feel after you've swallowed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But then I was with the other girl, and then I said, no, I love this one, right? Like, and then I'd say, I love you, I love spending time with you. And then she would go home. Like, I cared about them both, but I don't have, like...
And you were trying to do the right thing there as well.
Yeah.
That's why it's so confusing.
Yeah, right? So, like, that was a mindfuck. So then, like, because I told some lies first, everyone got hurt. And then I overcorrected, and then everyone got hurt, right? Because I was totally honest. And then I kind of realized, okay, though I'm being totally honest, I am telling people things as they come into my mind. So I'm being honest at the time, but then this half-baked kind of way that is truly hand on heart, that is how I felt in that moment. I felt like I loved them and I love spending time with them. As soon as I get home, well, I literally don't feel that anymore. Then I realized that there's a middle ground. You don't need to be 100% honest, because I might feel a way right now because I'm emotional or I'm horny or whatever it is. So then I realized to rein it in a bit, and not everything I feel needs to be shared, and not every idea that I have that hasn't been thought through and half-baked needs, like, so say if for whatever reason you were really pissing me off in this one specific scenario, and I told you fucking pissed me off, mate, right?
So like, insisting on not shouting.
I just randomly give you shit, and then I'm calm 20 minutes later. It's like, fuck, now I need to repair this mess. So then there is a middle ground where not everything needs to be shared. Some things keep to yourself because you don't even know. Like, how am I trying to be honest with you when I don't even know if I'm being honest with myself?
Do you think you were like trying to set yourself a formula to try and put your mind at peace? So it's like, I'm just going to do all honesty now. That way it's good, because you can sort of like, okay, well, I know where I'm at, and I know where I stand. Bring on the world. Here's my strategy for dealing with it. And then you tried that, and it didn't necessarily work.
So I kind of felt that even if the walls caved in again, right? So like they did when I lied, if I was honest and they caved in, then like I'm still kind of righteous, because I've said what I've said, right? So I would say to one of them, I don't expect you to put up with this. If you don't want to and you want to bail, then feel free. And then I carried it on. Justification to myself at the time. Well, I've told them, right? So that I've put the choice in their hands. So if they don't want to make that choice, but in retrospect, I should have been able to see that they were so infatuated by me that they couldn't make that choice for themselves. So I should have said, like, look, I'm going to hurt you. This is only going to end badly, right? So I need to make the executive decision here and cut it off just to kind of save you. But I justified it to myself by telling myself, well, I've put the ball in their court. Now it's kind of on them. But I wouldn't know these things if I hadn't fucked up. I made a lot of mistakes with the mother of my kids, because I was a fucking kid myself, mate. Like, we were together from 16 till 22. Made a lot of mistakes then, which then that made me better for the next girl. I also made a lot of mistakes with her, and all of these mistakes that I've made and these people I've hurt and myself are being hurt, that has led me to be in a position where I can be as good as I can be for Kate. I've got my ego reined in. The past that I've been down that I know don't end well, so we literally don't argue, mate. Like, we've been together it'll be 4 years next month, and we've had like 2 or 3 slight bickers in 4 years of time. All of that comes from when there's a problem. We've had a couple uncomfortable conversations where I've said, like, right, I need more of this from you, and she said, I need more of this from you, and we don't like to hear it at the time, but it's not a matter of ego, right? We're partners and the world is on fire and it's fucking scary, right? So the last thing that I need is the energy to come home and be a petty cunt and to look through phones and be jealous and be all of that. We just communicate. So I will sit down, we'll have the uncomfortable conversation. This is the way I feel. And telling somebody how you feel shouldn't end in an argument. If you've got your ego reined in, it should just be a case of, this is how it makes me, well, what do you want me to do? I don't know what I want you to do. A good example is, I'm sure Kate won't mind me sharing this, was there was she had some people around once, and they were playing drinking games, and I'd had a smoke, and I went to bed. The next morning I was looking through Instagram, and in one of the drinking games, this lad had to give her a lap dance, right? And there was this video on Instagram where he's like, she sat there with her legs together, and he put his hands on her knees, up her thighs, and then throws her legs open and turns around and starts to do the dance. I saw that, and it made me very uncomfortable, and it kind of pissed me off a bit. So if that had happened and I hadn't seen it, I don't care, right? Because I know they're just having fun. I trust Kate, or I wouldn't be with her, and I'm not insecure of the guy either, right? So the fact it happened, they're playing a game, they're drunk, they're having fun. And it makes you feel good. It gives you that little flutter when you're no problem at all. But the fact it was on Instagram, and that's how I saw it, like that made me uncomfortable. So then I just said to her, I was like, can I speak to you, please? And she said, yeah. And I was like, I was just looking through Instagram and I saw this. Said what I just said. I don't mind it happening, but me seeing it like that did make me really uncomfortable, and I don't want that to happen again. Now, I'm not telling you not to, right? And I'm not saying you're not to do that or you're not to see this lad, right? I've specifically, she's been in very controlling relationships before, so I've intentionally gone the opposite direction. So I never tell her to do anything, but I have said, it makes me uncomfortable, right? And then she said, well, to make you more comfortable, I won't do that anymore. And
my God.
And then that was it.
Isn't it so much better being a grown up?
So,
my
mate,
goodness
you're
me.
fucking telling me.
I mean, just, you know how I feel. The villain in that piece is social media. Okay. Yeah. That's how I feel. I just feel like we'd all be a lot better off, mental health wise, spiritually, and cheering the duck up style, if we just turn social media off forever and ever, and never ever picks it up again. Just say that. But to go back to what we were talking about, it's like you had to go through a hell of a lot to get to this point where you are now, right? Yeah. And again, this is one of the best things about our relationship. We both give a shit enough about our existence to put effort into these things, and we've both had these crazy journeys away from each other. And when we met each other, we realised we've got so much in common. So I'm with you. I know what you're talking about. But where you had to go through this moment where you're just like, okay, I've got to grow up. I'm causing myself harm and others around me. I need to grasp this concept of telling lies and being an honest person. What do I want? Who do I want to be? How do I achieve it? And you went through a messy, complicated and hurtful process to get there. You hurt others, you hurt yourself, you caused misery. You've come out the other end of it. You've achieved what you desired, right?
Yeah.
You know, you went through the fire and you come out, and you've made yourself stronger through going through it and stuff. And I can relate. We've got an entire podcast to talk about these journeys that we've been on together and separately and stuff. I just think that sometimes when I'm thinking of, I'm not having to go everybody who lies, we all lie. Every one of us lies. I'll tell a white lie. When you've got kids, you'll lie.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Yeah, of course, very real.
Like you have to save people's feelings, or like
you got it.
Or even if it's not like, I think that there needs to be a line drawn in between a lie, which is telling you A happened to A, or admitting the truth, which is not telling you about A at all, right? Like there is a difference there, and one definitely is like, everybody tells white lies, slight mistruths to help people's feelings, but I think the act of admitting the truth, my thought process is, right, I could tell you that person A said this about you. What comes from that? You feel bad and you sit on that for weeks, right? Maybe you confront the person, or it's awkward next time. Like nothing productive or at all comes to like, you don't need to know that information, so I'm not going to share it with you. There is no goal.
Are you giving into a base emotion there? Is it you want to see some conflict and some drama, and you just sit back and watch it unfold? Yeah, of course. No, yeah, you're right. This is exactly what we're talking about. It requires a lot of thought, a lot of effort, a lot of consideration and understanding to actually work out these things, and and try and work out how to tread through life with respect for the people around you, for yourself, and how to protect yourself from those moments where you're lying in bed wishing that you hadn't lied to somebody about something you didn't need to.
You've got that fucking bubbly belly and you can't sleep, and you're trying to think, how the fuck do I fix this?
You know, I had enough of that at school. You know, I had enough of that. You know what I mean? We had enough of that when I was learning about this shit. I'm a grown up now. I'm an adult. I've got
bigger problems. Yeah, I've got no time to think. I shouldn't have told fucking Charlotte that. Chantel told us as a can, especially when I'm not even in that situation.
Yeah, you got it, bro. You got it. In fact, looking back on it now makes me go,
yeah.
I get like a cold shiver thinking about the knots I used to tie myself into with this, especially if you're talking about women. Jeez,
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? So, but the journey, like we're talking about, right? I think if I was any advice, I'm not here to just blether on and offer advice. We're here to have a friendly conversation about cheering up, okay? But if I do work with young people, right? I know young lads who remind me of myself and the person that you were clearly as well. And like it's the best advice I've got for them is to do take the time to sit and think about this. Do consider where you're going and what you're doing wrong, because they come to me with their problems and stuff.
Yeah.
The thing is, that journey, that mashup of emotions and misery and real life situations and causing harm to yourself and others that it will take to go to get to the point where you can learn to get to where you want to be, it's really, really difficult. And as human beings, we tend to go the path of least resistance, right? We go towards pleasure and away from pain, right? So accept that it's going to be difficult to learn this about yourself. Firstly, accept that this is part of who you are, whether you like it or not. We're just human beings, and we have this part of our personality which needs to be addressed. Don't be scared of it. Don't be shy about it. Embrace it. Embrace the grind. Get on with it, and enjoy learning the lesson. So that when you come out the other end, you're not resentful for the journey that you've gone through to get there. Just appreciate the fact that we're here and we've got an opportunity. If you're lucky enough to be smart enough to understand this, you're in a great position to fix it, and you'll, for the rest of your life, you'll find a benefit from it. And that's obviously the message I'll be passing on to my kids when the time's right and everything as well.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
Because it's done me so much good, and I know for yourself too.
Yeah, like I think that being able to just think about why you're doing what you're doing, right? That was a main point. I had a lot of influence from my old flatmate Ben, right? Like he was the first person that I saw admit he was wrong and just be like, yeah, I wasn't right about that, right? So the way I grew up was there's always a scrambling in egos. Oh, well, yeah, well, you were right about that. It was always ego battles in my family and in my household and stuff. But then he proved me wrong about something, and it felt awful, and I was scrambling and stuff. And like, he didn't rub it in. He wasn't a dick about it. Some people are, right? Because that's the only knob swing that they get. But then I proved him wrong about something he was certain on. And then I was getting ready to be a kind of smug cunt about it. And he was like, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Took the wind right out your sails.
Yeah, like, so I was like, hang on, is this that easy? And then he showed me something else as well, right? There was this guy inviting us to go out for a drive in his car, basically, right? He's like, oh yeah, we'll go around the weekend and we'll drive around, bump some tunes and pull up on people.
Those are the days.
Yeah, right. And then I was scrambling. I was like, oh no, I might have the kids, or I might have that. Like we were saying earlier, and my mate Ben was just like, nah, like I don't want to do that. Right? It's like, oh come on, right? It's like, nah, honestly, mate, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to do that. I was watching that situation, expecting it to be awkward or expecting this like uncomfortable thing. And the guy was like, all right, yeah, fair enough. I was like, it's that easy. So I don't need to say I've got plans with David, I've got the kids. I can just say, nah, I don't fancy it. Oh,
it's funny. You just reminded me of a story that really captures this in a nutshell. So I've got this one particular friend, Ratinder, Ricky. He was Ratty. His real name's Ratinder. When we were kids, he was Ratty. Now he's a grown up. It's Ricky.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
No one wants to be called Ratty, but I love him to bits. I absolutely adore this guy. He's been my best friend for a long, long time. We lived together for a period of time, and I did his head in by being so messy. But no, he's just a legend. Him and I, one time we were at a party, and I guess we would have been about 18, 19, and it was my friend's house, and he had a car, my friend. And we didn't, right? So, yeah, like 18, 19 is those early days. And basically everyone got drunk and, you know, smoking loads of weed and stuff as you do. It got to like 1 a.m. and it's like, okay, the munchies are hitting hard, right? It's hard. Like you can't ignore kind of hard.
Yeah, yeah.
like I, you know, there's nothing in the fridge. And because it was, you know, an 18-year-old lad's house, you know.
Like half a mouldy fucking jar of jam sort of stuff.
Like beer and some margarine, so it's like we just turned to my friend whose car it was, and he's out cold, and it's like, dude, let's go to the garage. There's a 24-hour garage around the corner. Everyone's drunk, and it's like, can you get up and drive us there? Yeah. God, being a kid sucks, doesn't it? You know,
you're such dumb cunts by default, aren't you?
Yeah, it's pathetic. And he's not moving. I'm like, don't worry about it. I've got the perfect idea. We'll just take his keys, get into his car and drive there ourselves. Like neither of us had driving licenses or anything like that. Yeah. Jeez, oh my God, it's stinging my soul to tell this story. But we did. We got in the car, and like I drove there. Like we swapped at the petrol station. He drove back, And as we sort of pulled out of the petrol station, turned around the corner, saw the Blues and Twos.
Oh no.
Oh yes. It's like, oh shit. Right. And I was so drunk I could barely see. And it was just like, listen, Ratty, when he pauses over, just say sorry. That's our strategy. Sorry. Yeah. And there's a little knock on the window, and the guy goes like, do you know why I've pulled you over? I was like, no. He says, because your headlights aren't on. It's like, oh, I thought we could have got away with this as well, you know? Like, oh, fucking say, you've been drinking? Like, no. Have you been drinking? You know what I mean? What a ridiculous question. You must have been drinking yourself, officer. He's like, no. And have you been smoking? We were like, oh, Marlboro Lights maybe. He goes, oh, not smoking weed then. And we're like, no. He goes, okay, because it's just you got 8 toffee crisps on the back seat. It's like, oh shit. We're having a picnic. Oh, leave us alone. So it's like, okay, get out of the car, you pair of absolute fucking cockheads. Like, before I like put you over money and spank you for this, you idiots. And it's like, okay, fine. And we got out the car. They separated us. With colleague had Ratty, and he sat me down and goes, right, what's your name? I said, it's David Page. And he says, what's your address? So I gave him my address, and he's put phone number. I said, that's my phone number. I'm sorry. I don't know how to say I'm sorry, but I am, trust me. And he's like, I can see how sorry you are, because you look like you're about to cry, you fucking pussy. And I was like, and he went, right, fine, twat. And then went to speak to Ratty. All of a sudden they're taking Ratty and putting him in the back of the car. I'm like, oh shit. And I was like, Ratty. And the guy turns around and he's like, Ratty. Like, the guy told me his name was Gurpreet, Singh. Like, and I was like, oh no. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, he said he lives at 1200 Fossil Road or something. Like, that's not Ratty's address. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh no. And it's basically, he asked me my address. I gave him it. He asked Ratty's address. He tried to make something up on the spot, like 18 years old, drunk, trying to be clever. And the guy was just like, okay, cool, let's just run those through the computer. Like, oh no, I forgot they could do that, right? So he's like, okay, you twat, you're in big trouble, and they took him into the back of the car, and he kept him there for ages and ages. I sat talking to the police officer. Fair play to the police officer, right? He could see what was going on. He was just like, you're just an idiot, and he basically cut me a big lot of slack. And I ended up just talking to him for like half an hour. Right, he was getting processed, and he came out, and then that was it. He was in trouble. He got fined, and he had to take all his documentation because he lied to them. And I was just like, well, that'll tell you something. You know what I mean? Like, honesty is honesty the best policy? Not in every situation, right? But at the end of the day, if you want to try and get yourself out of a sticky spot by lying, you better be prepared to deal with the consequences.
You have to be like so intelligent to be able to keep up with these,
not 18 years old, stoned and pissed.
No, definitely not. And like, just being able to recognize why you're doing what you're doing, right? So in that situation, right, it's like, fuck, I don't want to be held accountable for a drink driving is one of the most dumb cunt things that you can ever do, right? It's crazy irresponsible. You could take out another family just because you're a lazy cunt and you don't want to walk. I've got no time for it.
Well, no, I mean, imagine you caused an accident whilst you were drink driving. Yeah. Like, what could you say? Mate, what could you say?
I went to school with a guy. He was a really nice guy. Really nice guy all through school. Had a business. Had a kid. I decided to drive home one night after being at the pub. He was doing like 40 or 50 in a 30. Nailed some old bloke. Now he's in prison. Like, because he died, right? And it's just, again, not to fucking constantly honk this horn. It's not the anti-alcohol podcast, but it's fucking alcohol, mate. It makes you act like a cunt.
And not everybody who drinks alcohol turns into a complete cunt because of it.
Yeah, of course.
That's just a disclaimer, but go on.
Yeah, like, but it's about like recognizing why you're doing what you're doing. So why are you lying? Or why can't you just be accountable and honest? What makes you feel so uncomfortable with, like, it might lead to a confrontation, right? And confrontation's scary. I get that. I don't like it, but I'm not scared of them, right? And we've spoke about this before, where like, if there's like, I say, if like you're making me uncomfortable, you keep trying to push me into something. A good example is drinking again, right? Where I say, oh, go on, lad, have a shot. No, I'm not gonna have a shot. Go on, have a shot. I'm not going to do that, mate. And then it gets to the point where, I do it. It's like, look, lad, I fucking said no. Stop, right? And now I've made an awkward situation. I haven't. Yeah, You've made an awkward situation by cornering me. I've told you no nicely 5 times. As soon as it gets to the point where I have to put some authority and some tone in my voice and tell you, like, listen, I said no. That isn't me making this situation awkward. it is an awkward situation, but you've pushed me to that point. But then having that confrontation, like after you've had a one or two, then you recognise it's a lot easier, right? To instead of being pushed into shit you don't want to do or putting up and letting it build up, to just on day one, right? That makes me uncomfortable. Please don't do that again.
Deal with it. Put it away, move on.
Yeah.
And if you're going to lie in a situation, not necessarily that situation we're discussing, but like if in general you do lie to avoid a confrontation, like the chances are you're just kicking it down the road. You're still going to have you still got all the shit that's happened, and you still have to deal with it. It's just like you might not have to deal with it that day.
And it's like a snowball. The further you fucking kick it, the bigger it gets.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you talk about the pressure with drinking and stuff. I know that it's something a lot of people will have. If you don't want to drink, you've almost got to put an asterisk next to that one because of the culture about drinking. Oh, not to waffle on and on about drinking again, like, but it is a very, very central part of a lot of people's lives, and it certainly was a central part of my life for a long, long time. I feel like I'm qualified to talk about alcohol, you know what I mean? And the problem is like somebody who would you'll receive peer pressure over an issue like that when people wouldn't normally peer pressure you because it's so socially acceptable. It's like, oh, I can't wait to take my son down the pub for a pint on his 18th.
It's part of the culture, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, I can't wait for my son to die of liver cancer when he's like, or liver failure when he's 60, or get into a drink driving accident. It's one of those ones people do it and they don't even really know they're doing it when it comes to that one. I'll just quickly, I do know a guy, a restaurant I used to work in was at the bar drinking one night, and came in the next day and the police were there interviewing the barmaid, and essentially what had happened was she'd served him alcohol and he drove home, spun his car and killed himself. It was like early 20s. Yeah, man. And they were just interviewing her to, like, I think there's a legal issue about serving somebody alcohol if you know they're driving and stuff. As far as I'm aware, it never went any further with the barmaid, but once you face a few situations like that up close and personal, it will change your mind about drink driving. And I saw a documentary just the other day about a lad who was blind, and he was learning how to wrestle.
Yeah,
got a slight soft spot for old school wrestling podcasts. I don't watch wrestling, but I like wrestling podcasts from back in the day.
Nostalgia, innit?
Nostalgia, yeah. But this lad, basically, he'd gone blind because his dad had been driving with him in the car, and he crashed, and the airbag hit him in the face and caused him to go blind. And his dad was drink driving. He said that he never spoke to his dad again. Yeah. He said he was only a lad when it happened as well. He said he'd had one conversation with him since. This was like 10 years previous. He never spoke to his dad again over it. But yeah, just to pivot, but we have to talk about nostalgia and listening to old school wrestling podcasts. So I might have to explain my position on that because it is a bit of an odd thing to be into. But funnily enough, like with the lockdown, I mean, we've all gone through this trauma recently. Okay, the whole human race basically has been through a trauma, hasn't it? Recently, we talk about the latest measures and what's going on next, but
all the fucking noise, mate.
Of course, but we've skipped over something we never really addressed, which was the whole thought that we all thought we were going to die and that the world was going to turn into a zombie movie and stuff.
Yeah, it fucking felt that way, mate.
Sure, it did.
28 days later vibe at the start of 2020.
100%, mate. We've all suffered, and basically, I've never been one for nostalgia in my life. I like to live for the moment and stuff. Like, I don't want to sound like Patrick Swayze in Point Break or anything, or anything, but I do like to live for the moment. I know you do too. Mm-hmm. We both talk about this. Like, there's no, I'm not one for looking back on pop culture from the past and rewatching old stuff, and I don't do that a lot. I don't even look at like music I've made over my career and stuff as a musician. I just move forward and face what's coming on that day because that's where my energy's needed. But after all of that crap that we went through, and we're sitting there locked in our fucking houses over this shit, and it was frustrating and depressing. One of the ways I found to cope with it was to start looking back to happier times. I've never done that in my life. I feel kind of resentful for it as well because it's like, damn it, you made me, we got squashed into a position that was so difficult that I ended up looking for relief, and I found it there when I look back to the 90s and the 2000s and stuff, and that was part of it. I started listening to 90s music and watching 90s films, me and my wife, because we're the same age, we went to school together a lot, so we got a lot of cultural reference points that we started revisiting them. And, oh my god, one of them would have been like podcasts with wrestling personalities from the 90s and stuff and all that. They're talking about the 90s and what life was like then and stuff. And my God, it's soothing for the soul. It's like Savlon for your brain.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, it was such a better time. It was not in every way, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, of course.
Like, you know, I don't think I need to put that disclaimer in. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's not like it was 100% better. Nothing bad ever happened. Plenty of bad things happened, but it was a far better time for getting along with people, right?
Or even if it wasn't as apparently shoved in your face all the time.
Yeah, all of these modern problems that we have weren't around. You know, we had problems, of course we did, but those problems weren't being used by media companies and social media giants to drive clicks and being forced down our throat all the time so that they can get advertising revenue. Don't want to go down that road too far today, Tom. You know, it's like, but it does seem that's one of the things it made it easier to live with the life in the 90s. It's one of the things that it wasn't there. But yeah, it's just interesting. So yeah, I've found a few things, a few films and a few albums and things like that I'm going to bring to your attention, just then pass you on and see what you make of them and see if you like them as well, you know. So yeah, that's how come I listen to old school wrestling podcasts. It's not because I'm putting Lycra on and a face mask and
jumping around
asking Jenny if she wouldn't mind if I elbow dropped her.
yeah, I'm not going to keep shame you, lad, whatever you're into. But yeah, like it's like the idea of revisiting the kind of far past, like I've spoke about this. I've spoke about this before, where like the idea of like the past isn't real and the future isn't real, and it's only now that's real, right? So then like anxiety comes from worrying about things that haven't happened, right? Which when you say it like that, right, everybody suffers with it, like, and it is worrying about things that haven't happened. Like how wacky is that? And depression seems to be dwelling on things in the past, which you can't change. It's not tangible. You can't go back. You can feel the ripples of the stone that's been thrown still into like the flow of time, but you can't go back and unthrow that stone. So you can sit and worry about it, or like be depressed and hold on to it. And I know it's much easier said than done. When you've got a brain that is a fucking chemical cocktail of this noise, and it makes you behave in ways you don't even understand and you don't even want to, and then as soon as you're calm, you're thinking after, why the fuck did I do that? Why did I make such a cunt of myself? Why didn't I just say, look, I'm scared, I'm vulnerable, this is why I'm acting the way that I'm acting, I'm terrified about the future, I'm having a fucking existential fucking crisis, I've got no idea what I'm supposed to do, society is telling me by now I should be owning a house, I'm miles off even getting close to a fucking mortgage, I'm paycheck to paycheck paying my rent, and you get all of these anxieties, and then you see people on social media again where, so all right, this guy's 20, he's just bought his first house and this has happened, and then you're comparing all of these things. But again, I know I've said this before, comparison being the thief of joy that it is, like most of your actual, well, mine, right, there's tons of nuance to everything. So when I'm talking candidly and about my own experiences, but tons of these problems either aren't tangible, aren't actually real, and when you're in the moment, they're not actually affecting you. So the way that I think, I can't think too far into the future, or else I get depressed. I get anxious and I get worried because there's so many variants that I can't control. So I kind of have to, for the most part, I'm day to day, because I kind of think as well, and maybe it's not the best way to think, maybe it's the best way to think in the world, I don't know, but I kind of think I could spend 16 hours of my day to day grinding to pay for dinner tomorrow and then die in the morning. Right, so then
is this how you would you call this like an active coping strategy for how you deal with the things we're talking about, depression and anxiety?
100%.
This is one of your tools you have in your locker, right?
Yeah. So that's how this is how I cope, because I've spoke before about how I kind of I depersonalize sometimes and I don't feel like I'm real, and then I had one when I was looking into Islam and stuff, right? It kind of all ended up in this big bomb at once, where I realized I don't know anything and I don't understand anything past surface level. Nothing makes sense, right? And we can talk about these things, so you can talk about how a plant grows or why this happens or why you behave this way in these chemicals, but they're so abstract that it doesn't feel connected. So I can talk about the reason that I can talk is because of all these things happening, and talk you through these technicalities, but then that doesn't actually link up to me talking, so then the further that I think to the future, the more I overthink every decision, because I can trace back to the position I'm in right now, talking to you, to the click of a mouse, right? So all the way back to when I was sat at my sister's house. I couldn't reach a TV remote, so I grabbed the laptop, and the only other person on Facebook ended up being the mother of my kids. So then I start to worry, okay, if I don't give this guy at the time of day, then further down the line, this is going to come back to bite me. And if I do, maybe my girlfriend's going to leave me for him. And just all of these, like, there is so many variables that are out of my hand. And I kind of came to this thing where, like, I'm not even sure free will is real. I'm not even sure I have a choice. And then the best way I could describe it was, to me, life and a free will is at best like going down a mountain on a bicycle with no brakes. So I can somewhat control my direction, but I'm heading to the bottom, and I could either style it and backflip and have a great time, or fall off and tumble the whole fucking way, right? So then I start to think then, well, if I don't have free will, then it doesn't really matter what I do, because it's going to happen anyway. But then maybe that would make what's going to happen. So then I get stuck in these horrible circle thoughts. So then I have to think now, tomorrow, maybe at a push. But the concept of tomorrow never comes. It's not real. It's not here. Right, it's just now. You're always in now, all of the time. So that's what I have to think about. So then, if I'm sat there and I'm working 16 hours, and it's a nice hot day, and I keep telling my kids to go away, and I'm doing it because I want to be able to take them places and buy them things, right? But then, say I die in the morning, or I have an aneurysm and randomly drop. Stranger things have happened, mate. Like a fucking meteor hits my house, whatever it is. Then, why have I spent my last 16 hours of existence not enjoying it, which seems weird. Like
away from your kids,
yeah,
away from your missus.
So I was talking to Kate about it, and like she's terrified of anything happening to me, as she would be, right? But I I help her and I support her in a lot of ways, so she's really worried about what she would even do if I went and all of this stuff, right? I think maybe right now is my last 24 hours in existence. Maybe I will die tomorrow. If I knew I was going to die tomorrow, would I give a fuck about how I'm going to pay rent next month? Or would I give a fuck about, my belly's a bit big? Or would I give a fuck about any of these things? No, right? It's something to bear in mind, but then they all seem like such big things. All right, so to lose weight, I'm going to have to start jogging. I'm going to have to sort my diet. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to do that. It seems like such a monumental, terrifying task. Well, I can't think about all of that. I've got this to think about. And then if I only have 24 hours to live, what would I do? I do have to do some work still, because even though I'm not going to be here tomorrow, my kids still will be, and I need to provide something for them. So I do need to get my work in.
Take out life insurance would be a good start, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Right. So here is my allocated work time. I have to spend a bit of my last time on Earth doing something for them, even if it's not spending time with them. Right. Because even though I might not be here tomorrow still will be. Mm-hmm. So then I can tell myself I need to do a bit of work here, and then I do that, and then I think money, right? Like I have this thing where every time I'm comfortable, I get lazy, which I don't really know. Like I kind of struggle with that in itself, because yeah, you could call me lazy. But what's the point of stacking up these imaginary numbers in my bank? That like these things, it doesn't even fucking exist. It's not even tangible. If I went to the bank, these zeros probably aren't even fucking real. So, well,
it's a fiat currency. It certainly is not real.
Yeah. So why am I focusing on this? Like everything's there to distract me, and I feel when I break away from the distraction, that's when I realize nothing makes sense. Right? Like the concept of debt is crazy. When you hear like the world is in trillions pounds of debt, it's like, well, how has this happened? And then it's
who to?
It's if
that's a good question. Isn't it?
If I have £10, I lend you £10, and you lend it to Jenny, and she lends it to Kate. There's £40 worth, well, £30-40 worth of debt there, and there is only actually a tenner. So can we pass around that other way? There's still only £10, and that £40 of debt is being paid off. So I start to think of that. That doesn't make sense. How do I do this? I'm full of anxiety, and I'm panicking, and I'm worried about all of this crazy shit, and then I realize, like, none of this matters. If if I knew the world was going to end, I don't give a fuck about any of this shit. What would I be worrying about?
Well, what would you be worried about?
I would be worried about when my kids wanted me to come see this bee in the garden, right? And I've seen loads of bees, so I don't care. And I'm working, right? So yeah, okay, I'll see it later. Or I've seen bees before, darling, right? And they go, okay. What I worry about is when they stop coming to tell me that there's a bee in the garden. Just the idea of it puts a fucking lump in my throat, mate. Like I pie them off enough to the point that they just stop even trying to engage, and then I have to kind of chase that relationship, and then they get older, and like that's what I'm terrified of. So like there is sometimes, obviously I can't drop whatever I'm doing all of the time to go and see what the kids have done, but unless I'm in, most of the time I do, because I think like that, right? So if I die tomorrow, and yesterday or my daughter, or today, sorry, she came to me and said, I've made a potion in the back garden, can you come see it? Or I've made a garden, or I've made a bug hotel or something like that. If I said, okay, I'll see it later, and I don't do it intentionally, but every parent is guilty of this. When you say, oh, I'll do it later, and you get so caught up with, all right, I've got dinner, dishes, bed, blah, 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 and then it's like, fuck, I didn't actually see her picture, or I didn't actually see this thing. I'll see it tomorrow, and then you end up forgetting, and it just slides in down the sands of time. My fucking heartbreaking fear is that, say, if I was to go, the last thing they tried to show me I didn't see, and it's 10 seconds, mate. It's like, maybe it's a couple of minutes where I walk down and engage, and that's where being mindful is, being in the now and in the situation, and not, why is my mind in tomorrow? Why is my mind thinking, I need to get this edited, I need to get this done, I need to get this done so I can pay this bill, as if I stop for 5 minutes and go downstairs and gas her up about it. Well done, darling.
They don't understand those things, those responsibilities that you have. There's no point trying to say to them, I can't do that, darling, I'm doing this. That doesn't compute to a child.
Yeah, and like that just fucking terrifies me, man. Well, like just when they get to a point, or hopefully they fucking never will, but if they got to a point where they just realised, what's the fucking point? Like, I'm not even going to try and show dad anymore, because like, and it might not be that bitter. It might just be a case of, if you keep on trying to open a locked door and it's locked 6 of the 7 days, then you're not going to try on the 7th day. And I'm fucking scared of that, mate.
Well, yeah, okay, that is a lesson that you've taught yourself, and it's worth taking the lessons from it with you forward. Yeah, for sure. And just trying to understand what it's like from the other side of it when the child's asking you these things. You know, just do take the time. This is why whenever I do anything with the kids, I leave my phone either in the car or at home. You know,
yeah.
There's nothing worse than the kids trying to show you something, and you're just like, hang on a minute, I'm looking at something pointless on YouTube.
And as soon as they're in bed, you feel so fucking guilty, don't you? Why was I wasting that fucking time?
What a horrible feeling. That feeling's there for a reason. It's there to tell you something.
Yeah,
you should act on that feeling, right?
Yeah, for sure. Turn your fucking phone off.
Yeah, man. Well, you know how I've got a new rule in my life when it comes to my phone.
Great idea.
Yeah. Well, thank you. 2100 hours till 0900 hours. Those 12 hours, I don't want my phone anywhere near me, so I turn it off. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm getting thousands of calls from those VIPs all night, but
but you get that ding, and then you read, and then you click the link, and then you're an hour down the wormhole.
Yeah. The only person I really need to talk to is either sitting next to me on the sofa, it's my wife, or it's yourself. Or it's something to do with work. And at the end of the day, if it's really important, they do have my home number. When we're talking about the functions of a phone, it's the other things that are on that. It's the computer, exactly. Isn't it? Yeah, it's the YouTube and the links and MMAfighting.com and or whatever it may be, websites that you go cruising through. YouTube's a bad one for me. I spend too much time looking at things on YouTube that I don't need to look at and stuff. So the first time I did it, it was hard. The second night it was harder. The third night it was like trying to scratch an itch, like I need my phone, and then after by night 4 it was just gone. Yeah. And it's like I cannot imagine a time in my life where I'm going to stop doing it. You know what I mean?
Nothing but benefits.
Yeah. Like I want to watch a film at 9 o'clock at night. What are you doing? The kids are in bed. That's time me and my wife talk. You know, or I'll read a book, stop the page and talk to her about the book I'm reading, or we'll watch something together on the television, and then discuss it. It's like, at what point would a phone bring anything to that party, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, unless you're watching a film and you want to Wikipedia something to perhaps, it's a good move. It's a good move. But the thing is, like I say, the other times that I'll do it is if I'm taking the kids to the park. Like, don't take your phone. Just don't take it, because all of a sudden you'll be at the park and you'll see the other parents staring at their phone and their kids trying to get their attention. Like,
when you see that,
right.
And you think like, fucking hell, put your phone down and say, fuck, that was me last week.
Yeah. Right, you know, I'll try and stop myself from being so self-righteous and just try and take it from it something that makes sense to my situation, and just go, okay, well, I don't want to do that. My kids don't want me to do that, right? You know, and another thing about this is, like, especially when you talk about your kids, you and I have both had situations where we've had sort of like, you know, custody battles might be a bit grand, but like, you know, tug of wars with the co-parent about, like, you know, every moment I get with any one of the three of my kids is priceless and golden, because I had a little taste of what it would be like to have somebody try and take one of my children away from me.
That puts the fear in you, doesn't it?
Well, the fear, the fire, the anger, that, you know,
how helpless you are.
That's not. Well, I was helpless, but then I was like, no, that won't be happening.
Let's
actually,
get this fixed.
Yeah, and then I fixed the situation. Like I say, in my particular situation, we were talking about my eldest. Like, I actually took his mum to court and got the hands down best deal you could get for somebody that doesn't live in the same city, because I don't live in the same city as his mum does. And when she messed me about enough to, it got to the point where I had to take her to court, and I took her to court and just slammed dunk on her ass. It was perfect. It was the best moment of my life.
Yeah,
it was definitely one of the best moments of my entire life. I've got him half of his free time, which is, like I say, that's the best you can get if you don't live in the same city. And it's actually better than a lot of parents who live in the same house as their kids get, you know, because I get him every other weekend, half of his school holidays.
It's more of a mindful time there, right?
You got it. You box that off. That's time for us, you know. And those times that we spend together, they're worth, well, like I say, having had them almost out of my grasp for a moment there, and realised that, like, you know, how important they are and stuff. So yeah, the thought of taking those moments for granted and saying, okay, well, but I just want to look at my phone. It's you know, I wouldn't say I never do it. Right? Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying it's we're not too far away from the time where they will turn around and just tell us to piss off because we're doing Reading, and they'll be teenagers, and you'll be begging for those moments back. So don't. Right, and don't disrespect them.
Like, I have a way, right? This is something that I've never really thought of, to be honest, but I have a way where I can force myself to be mindful. One example is I always lose myself. If you ever see me drinking anything, my eyes close and I go somewhere else, right? And the reason is because I always picture that I've been walking through a desert, right? A long ass desert, and like all I want, every fiber of my being is screaming out for water. And then I come across a tree, right? And from this tree, water is just flowing. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's just cold, crisp, perfect filtered water, and I'm drinking it. Right, so every time I close my eyes, that's what I picture. I've just walked across a desert, and I'm the thirstiest man in the world. So then I start to drink, I close my eyes, I get lost in it. It's like, oh my God. And then it makes me enjoy drinking so much. I feel the cool going down. I feel myself getting better. And I do I do the same thing when, say, because time is stretched thin and I like time on my own, I got into a habit of staying up late after Kate went to bed, and I'm watching things. I fall asleep on the sofa. I'll go to bed about 5 a.m. And then she said, I want you to come to bed with me, right? It's like, oh, well, like, I need my time and I want my time. And she said, right, just Sunday then. And I said, well, that's reasonable. I still wasn't happy about it, but I was like, that's fucking reasonable. And obviously it's a Monday today. And then I went to bed with her and I was hugging her. And then I thought to myself, if this is the last night I have with her, how am I going to hold her? Right? And I'm holding her tight, and I'm being mindful and I'm looking at the way her hair falls down past her ear, and in her smell and her presence, and like how in how she feels, how our legs are entangled and we're just intertwined, and then like it's like a heart to beating in sync. So then to make myself not be caught on autopilot and to force myself to be mindful, I just think, not in like a morbid way, so it's not like I'm kind of worried or panicking. I just think, imagine I thought I had lost it. So imagine, I don't know, she left me, or God forbid, something worse happened. And then somehow I get her back. So it's like I'm in a dream, or it's like I'm going through the desert. Somehow I get her back. How would I treat her? I would hold her, I would tell her I love her, I would kiss her, I would offer her things. She wants a massage, of course you can have one, yeah, and I'm not even going to try and fuck you after, but like,
yeah, just don't let them know that you think that about them.
Yeah,
or else all of a sudden it's tidy in the kitchen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they fucking milk it. But yeah, just that thought, and it's the same idea with the kids too. So like I've been at the park and I've been arguing with some cunt on Twitter, right? And then they come over to me and say, "Oh, put your phone away and come play with us." And I'm like, "How the fuck are my kids telling me this?" So then I think, like we were just talking about, if I'd lost my kids, if they went to live with the other parent and not me, right? Then I got them back, or if I died, I've spoke to Saint Peter, back you go. I would play with them. I would, come show me this flower. What do you think of this? What do you think's over there? Like, I would engage way more, and I wouldn't be caught in this weird autopilot cycle.
That's why that whole thing means so much to me, because it's like, it's really central to the whole sort of story of how I learned how to fix myself and deal with the world in a far better way. It was that moment when I nearly lost. Well, there was no way I was ever going to lose him. There's no way I was ever going to let her do that to me, But she tried, and how these situations can go. They just sort of, a lot of the time, with the family court system, they favour the mother a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, it is what it is. Not here to sort of go on about that, but it was just like all these ideas that she had for how I was going to see my child. It's like all these little caveats and twists and
jump through this hoop.
It was the best day of my life to just say, oh, okay, that's cool. Well, let me just grab those now. Cool, got them. I'm just going to screw them up into a ball and throw them in your face. That's nice. Sit down, shut up. He's my son, and I'm going to live the way I want to with him. It was a beautiful moment, but it also it was just a lesson. Never ever take any of my children for and the time that I get to spend with them for granted, and to work at being a decent enough human being to justify turning around and saying, yes, I'm a dad, these are my kids, I'm on top of all this shit. You don't get that just by sitting back and expecting it to happen. You got to work at it, and then basically that really helped me made the decision to put in all that effort into being a father and stuff. Previous to that time, I'd been a rock and roll bass player, which was all good fun, but it was very selfish and meant that I could just the rules were no rules. I could just do whatever the fuck I wanted, whenever I wanted, and it was all good because I was going to go on stage. I was going to start clapping to me. So how could I be doing anything wrong? Yeah, of course. But that was the thing that made me make the big change, and that's I just love Alex, my eldest, so much, and. Yeah, it's paid dividends ever since. I've never taken him for granted. I've never taken the time with the younger ones for granted. And the relationship I have with my eldest now is rock solid. He's just one of the best lads that you could ever possibly meet. He's so funny.
He's a great kid.
Yeah, bless him. And I guess we'll spend more time talking about that. Another time. Yeah, for sure. Like just a kind of closing thought before we wrap this one up. Like, you have to work with what you've got, right? So I know I had this big problem where if I couldn't do it all, I wouldn't do any, if that makes sense, right? Okay. I would do things where, I only have my kids 2 days a week, so how far can I really get with that, right? So then I'll just be like, fun weekend dad, and I'll just give them ice cream whenever they want, and they don't have a bedtime, and they don't have any rules with me, so it's way more fun and all of this. So like if I couldn't have it all, then I didn't really know what to do with it. So say if you're in a position where you're the mother of your kids or the father of your kids is a dick and causes you problems, and just they put their ego in front of the actual child and they're weaponizing them and stuff like that, so you only get to see them maybe one day a week or one every fortnight or once a month, whenever it is. Work with what you've got, right? So even I've been in a position where I couldn't call and speak to the kids, because every time I did, she'd pick a fight, and she knows exactly how to work my buttons and piss me off and make me bite. I'm really good at not biting, but there's something about the way she behaves just puts the fucking flame in me, right? So I couldn't even call and speak because I'd hear her in the background like, oh, well, I tell you, Dad, you need more of this. And like just these digs that the kids obviously don't know what they're saying, right? But like, don't use them to get to me. And say you're in this horrible situation and you only get 1 day a week or 1 day a month to actually spend that time with them. Make the fucking most of it, right? Well, so work with what you've got. There's no point in being sat there like, oh, well, like
like I only get one day, I wish I could have two. If you had no days, you'd wish you could have one, right? And so like you've got that one day. It's not ideal a scenario. You need to put up with this dickhead, and even if you do have to play to their whims because the court system has lent in their favor, be it right or wrong, with the time you have with them, imagine it's that they're gone and you get them back, or you're gone. Like that works for me.
I understand what you're saying. I think that's a really, really solid point you got there. If you do work with what you've got, just understand, like, you know, if you want to take it, we all want to, those of us who have found ourselves in that position and you want it to get better and you want to spend more time with them, like the best way to achieve that is by playing by the rules and making the most of it. Okay, you won't get to the next step where you have got them for longer if you just blow off the opportunity to spend that one day a week with them, or whether it's supervised visits that some poor people have to suffer through.
Yeah.
If you can face up to it, better times will be ahead. And the relation, if you just keep the relationship going with your child and stuff, then, you know, you're opening the door to all the possibilities that are ahead of you. If you miss that opportunity, then obviously
exactly.
you have no doors open to you.
It's really also important to really ask yourself and be honest with yourself, right? I had to do this. Am I thinking about myself or am I thinking about my kids? Right? So am I thinking, I am sad I don't get to see my kids? So I know there was a time when I was figuring myself out and the kids lived out with a mum still. I wanted them to come and live with me. Right? I wouldn't, at the time, the state of mind that I was in, I would not have been able to take care of them. I wasn't thinking about the kids. I was thinking about myself and thinking, I miss them. I want this. I want that, blah, blah, blah. Right? What you have to think about is what is best for the kids. Say they live with the mum and you want them to come out and live with you. If you're smoking weed all day long, you're in and out of work, right? And you can't hold down a job. You're in and out of relationships and you don't have your shit together. You're not thinking that kid is not going to be better with you, right? Especially if you live far away, right? Because then
the only thing you're going to achieve is to go ha at the mum.
Exactly, right? So that's about you. So
it's not about that.
Are you going to uproot the kid's whole life? So they have to get new friends because they come to live out with you now. The actual day to day is difficult, right? The discipline and guiding them how to be good people and the wiping asses and all of this stuff. The day to day, it's not this, like, it is lovely, but both hands are pulling here, right? Like, so I think about it. I know you miss your kid. I know you miss your baby. And I know you feel the way that you feel. But put that baby first. If your shit is not together, you're no good to the kid or for the kid, right? So I hurt people, luckily not my kids, but like I hurt people figuring myself out. Luckily, my kids weren't involved in this, right? But at the times that I've had people really close to me, Ben is a good example. I was saying to him about how I want the kids to come live with me and all of this stuff. And he was the one that first brought that concept to me. Are you thinking about yourself or are you thinking about the kids? But yeah, I think that's where we're going to wrap this episode up. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Don't forget to check out all of our social medias for clips and all that fun stuff. And I will see you very soon.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.